This video is sponsored by Black Forest Supplements. Some entertainment franchises have gone beyond the threshold of being mere brands and become cultural institutions, taking on a life of their own in the lives and imaginations of their audience, being passed down from parent to child for up to 3 generations. And these institutions were the ones the contemporary batch of producers and filmmakers exploited to signal their own virtue, in the process destroying something far greater than themselves. And in the aftermath of variety acknowledging, and therefore making it socially acceptable for everyone in the industry to finally say out loud that the male audience have indeed been driven away from these brands, it follows from that these brands indeed have been destroyed. What will be the legacy of the virtue signalers who are responsible for this? Well, according to one such virtue signaler, namely Russel T. Davies, the man who more than perhaps any other is directly responsible for the destruction of Doctor Who, Doctor Who will not define his legacy, even if his work marks the point where audiences stopped sharing the franchise with their kids and just tuned out. It's nice that he's optimistic, but we will get into the real legacy of not just him, but others like him in a bit here. But first, why would long-time viewers who grew up with these properties just drop out? Well, because like so many other institutions, Doctor Who started to moralize and lecture rather than to entertain and encourage its audience to think, which is the wider trend. Across the board, there has been socially destructive messaging, and on top of that, quite a few high-profile male characters have been reduced to passive, emasculated simps that embody unhealthy lifestyles, instead of promoting keeping oneself mentally and physically fit and healthy, which we all should strive towards. And helping towards that end is NMN, that's nicotinamide mononucleotide, a natural supplement which is vital for the functioning of the 37 trillion cells in your body, and which can help reduce weight, cholesterol, and even blood pressure in overweight adults. Meaning it not only slows down, but can functionally help reverse aging. Here's Professor David Sinclair from the Paul F. Glenn Center for the Biology of Aging at Harvard Medical School talking about it on Joe Rogan.
How old are you?
Turning 50. So
You're turning 50?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought you were 50.
So about 20 years ago, Lenny Guarente and a team of us at MIT discovered a set of genes that controls aging in yeast cells. Just brewer's yeast, what you find in beer and bread. And those genes are called sirtuins, and there are 7 of them in our bodies, 5 in yeast. And what they do is they protect all organisms on the planet, plants, bacteria, humans, from deterioration and disease. They're like the Pentagon. They sense when we're hungry, sense when we're exercising, and they send out the troops to defend us. So when you put more of these genes into a yeast cell or a mouse, they'll live longer, between 5 to 20% longer. And so we think that these genes are responsible for the effects of dieting and exercise, which is great. What that means is we can now mimic that with molecules. So NMN is one of those molecules.
NMN is so efficient, in fact, that the FDA is trying to take it away by having it reclassified as a performance-enhancing drug. Why, you wonder? Because NMN is one of the main precursors of NAD+, which Professor Sinclair also explains more about.
Get this. So sirtuins need NAD to work. Without them, they don't work. In fact, if you don't have NAD in your body, you'd be dead in about 30 seconds. It's a really important molecule. But as we get older, we lose NAD. So by the time you're 50, like I almost am, you have about half the levels of what you had when you were 20. So that's not good. And these sirtuins, they don't protect the body without high levels of NAD.
In other words, in order to stay fit as you get older, you need to supplement your levels of NMN, the precursor to NAD+, and Black Forest Supplements, the sponsor of this video, can help you out with that. What's more, for the next 48 hours, viewers of this channel can buy 2 and get 1 free, so order yours now. Link is in the description. And with that, let's get back to the legacy of those destroying institutions that used to be passed from one generation to the next. Because that is how much they used to resonate with their respective audience. And let's begin with the one most responsible for the downfall of Doctor Who, for he is the one who has most directly addressed his own legacy. The Deadline Hollywood write-up reads, "Esteemed British showrunner Russel T. Davies doesn't think Doctor Who will be on my gravestone." The BAFTA-winning scribe has had 2 stints showrunning the hit BBC series but told the big issue. His legacy will be defined by the queer shows he created like Queer as Folk, Cucumber, It's a Sin, and the upcoming Tiptoe. Now, I don't necessarily disagree with that per se, but I do believe queering up Doctor Who, in the process destroying an institution that dates back 60 years, just might be remembered as well, and not just for the queering up bit. Anyway, the write-up continues. I love Doctor Who, but I don't own it. It's not mine. To which I would interject that in principle I agree. It isn't his, as he was but a contemporary custodian. But in this case, you broke it, so you bought it. If nothing else, the stain that comes from having broken it. Yet the bane of Doctor Who doesn't see it that way, and continues, "So in the end, my heart will always be with the things that I own," he told the magazine. Davies said Tiptoe, which follows 2 gay men in Manchester on the front lines of the culture war, is the strongest thing I've written, describing it as a cross between cult Channel 4 drama Queer as Folk and his futuristic BBC series Years and Years. It is the strongest thing I've written. I do believe Queer as Folk, Cucumber, It's a Sin, and Tiptoe are the ones that will be on my gravestone, he added. He may feel that, but we don't get to decide our own legacy, and he knows that, which the rest of the write-up certainly makes clear. Doctor Who just aired its 2nd season under the new Davies era, but all is not well with the show. Its Disney-BBC co-production deal appears to hang in the balance, ratings are down, and the ex-Doctor Ncuti Gatwa has left under something of a cloud. Spin-off The War Between the Land and the Sea is expected to launch later this year. Davies simply replied, "Behave," when questioned by the big issue over the show's uncertain future. Behave, huh? That's him harshly telling the magazine in question, the big issue, to stop asking me critical questions, you homeless bums. For this is the magazine, which is sold by the homeless to raise money for them. Davies seemingly doesn't care about that though. He cares about letting everyone know what his legacy will be. He evidently has a story to put out there, so he can't have the big issue remind him and everyone else that he did in fact destroy Doctor Who, because that doesn't fit the story he wants to write for himself. But what he wants really doesn't matter, because everyone knows the truth anyway, even if most trades won't confront him with his biggest failure to his face. Referencing his own words, no matter what instructions Davies leaves in his will pertaining to the text on his grave when the day comes. A day we of course hope will be in the distant future and of natural causes. I still have a feeling someone will scribble on his gravestone, "Here lies the bane of Doctor Who. He did what the Daleks couldn't." Because no matter how much other gay content he may make, or how good it may be, and I am the first to admit that It's a Sin was a great watch, even as a straight viewer, the destruction of Doctor Who is part of his legacy as well, whether he likes it or not. Yet he is lucky, because he has another shtick to be remembered for as well, and the destruction of Doctor Who was, if nothing else, in keeping with that. Others are not so lucky. Take Kathleen Kennedy. What will her legacy be now? Had she retired a decade ago, she would have been remembered as the greatest producer of all time, which is what the trades and everyone else in the industry keeps on repeating like a mantra. Yet while no one will say it to her face, all her friends and associates in the industry will whisper it behind her back. There goes the woman who destroyed Lucasfilm, Star Wars, and Indiana Jones. And everyone knows it. Clearly, her only real contributions to the great cinema her husband Frank Marshall and Steven Spielberg made together were menial tasks that anyone could have done. In the epochal variety piece, which made it okay to say out loud that forcefully making male brands female-centric drove the audience away, both Star Wars and Indiana Jones are explicitly referenced, and both are her responsibility. In addition to the successes with her husband and Spielberg, she will be remembered for her own failures. And my hunch is that with the passage of time, that is all she will be remembered for. Same thing with Kevin Feige. For the longest of time, many believed he was the architect behind the MCU, a belief I am of the opinion that PR agencies helped get out there. But the fact of the matter is that there would have been an MCU with or without him, and he played a very little role in its conception and early success. He did, however, play a major role in its downfall, which he brought on by implementing the same policies Kennedy already had done over at Star Wars, to utterly disastrous results. And those policies worked no better for Marvel, a company which was also explicitly referenced by Variety as having driven away its male audience. And to be clear, we know they also drove away the female audience they used to have on top of that. But there were more male viewers in the pool, so obviously that's where the biggest drop-off is going to be. Still, the MCU is in a state of decline right now, for which Feige is responsible, and unless he is able to mitigate that, that will be his legacy. And then there's Bob Iger. Had he retired when he first said he was going to, he would have gone down in history as one of the greatest superstar CEOs of all time. Instead, he has overseen the fall of Disney, as both Kathleen Kennedy and Kevin Feige's failures are ultimately his failures. And company-wide, there are other failures mirroring those across the board, which all add up to that it was on Iger's watch that the family audience lost the blind faith they used to have in the Disney brand. That is the likely legacy all of Iger's virtue signaling will have resulted in. Outside of Disney, outside of Doctor Who, Alex Kurtzman, of course, goes without saying. Unlike the others I've discussed so far, he never even had any major enduring and memorable hits he is associated with, only the downfall of Star Trek, a legacy of failure on the altar of virtue signaling and identitarian messaging. Note, however, that the names I have mentioned here are the really high-profile ones. There are many others as well, who all did their fair share of damage for virtue signaling causes as well, and they will no doubt be remembered for having done so within their field and niche. But everyone will know the truly big ones, and they will forever be remembered for and tainted by the destruction they wrought, which is ironic, for they no doubt thought that they were on the right side of history. It's funny how those who are so fond of using that expression so very rarely are. A far more fitting one would be, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. And before you go, for the next 48 hours, viewers of this channel can buy 2 and get 1 free of NMN, the precursor to NAD+. So order yours now. Link is in the description.